Just gonna use a pen today. Anything will work. Nothing particular about the instrument. Enter the exercise and get introduced and warmed up. We'll do a little warm up on a scrap piece of paper, some page in a sketchbook, wherever you're working. We would title today's exercise kind of a view through the leaves, and we'll look further at framing that view, but in the warm-up portion, finding your leaf type or leaves type that you're interested in. Maybe playing around a little just with drawing some things on the paper that could be kind of a grassy, narrow leaf, or a broader, wide teardrop type of leaf, or maybe something with a little bit of shape to it. I think I'll work with something a little broad and grass-like, but a little kelpy, some softer edges. And in the warm-up, we're just getting our hand ready to move and play around. And so finding ways to make the edge, the center, maybe a little bit of the light veining, and how that'll form out in your drawing will develop over the course of the exercise, but having a sense of it now. One thing I think we'll explore a little is the positions these things can take. A little swoosh line can show the front and the back of a shape. On the inside, we might see more of the structure. On the outside, more of a pattern or texture. That's something I may explore, and finding difference across the view of the different leaves. A couple more, feeling it out. They can be kind of diagrammatic, little flat 2D situations, or more three-dimensional, whatever suits you. Will all work for the exercise, but just finding in your mind a shape of leaf, and then we'll find more shape of leaf on the paper. The first thing we'll do is establish a field of view, a place that we'll look through into the forest of leaves. And this could be anything, could be two vertical, two horizontal lines, a box, some diagonal cuts. I think for myself, I'm going to do kind of a wide horizontal landscape definition. So just start with a line that breaks the page into a space and another space, and find somewhere else another line that further subdivides that paper. Again, for myself, this zone in the middle, a bit of territory of landscape, a framing, but it could be anything, rectangle, circle, any view or window out into that space, and one primary container drawing within that. Once that's established, we can use it with our eyes to establish the space of the paper, maybe let the hands feel out whatever region you're giving yourself to work. No across left and right, no across down and up. Just to have a sense of where the hand will move, the diagonal corners, feeling comfortable in that territory, adjusting the seat or the standing position, adjusting your position of the paper if you can, to have that feel comfortable. We'll take a couple of grounding breaths just to fill out the lungs and check in on the shoulders. Relaxing on the exhalation, you wiggling a little bit the spine to make sure everything's sitting in a nice, stable way. One more for good measure. And when you finish the exhalation, coming to the paper and perhaps beginning the first journey of the edge of a leaf, something moving through that space. Decisions we'll make along the way. Does it sit within, cross over? How harsh or shaped are its edges? How much can we bring a softness to something organic? In the first one or so, just bringing that warm up here, getting a sense and establishing the feel. If you have experience with something specific, you may bring that to your drawing or just allow a new thing to unfold, that general shape that we associate with leaf. We'll work progressively if we want to bring detail in, so at first an establishing on the page. Getting a sense of how that breaks up the territory, opens things to explore, and bringing to mind a view through the leaves, perhaps on the ground, scattered in the fall, perhaps through a window or framed by a camera, perhaps looking up into the trees, some element of that coming to mind, getting to bring it out into the paper through several rounds of exploring. Finding that movement of something soft, a membrane, finding that structure to its spine, getting comfortable with moving the hand and the pen or pencil in kind of a leaf-like form for you. And as we go along, perhaps experimenting a little with what sits in front, what sits behind, what forms an edge or a shape that will develop as we see and look and we put on the page. And they can come from any direction, sensing an up to a down to up for my drawing, but leaves could come in from the side, scatter, again between each new engagement, taking a moment perhaps and seeing with the eyes closed, a feeling of that looking through the leaves, letting that image come forward in the mind, and then engaging the pen or pencil, tracing with more attention the contours of its edges, moving more subtly. Where can that come into play? Is there a small curl here and there? Perhaps a twist or a fold, the breeze blowing through those leaves. And when it brings a new edge into what you see, maybe that edge gets just a little bit of reinforcement, two lines just next to each other, thickening, turning just to show us a little bit of its other side. And look for some of these opportunities. Depending on how much page you have, it may be getting a little bit of density to it. The leaves may have to make a decision about overlapping or being under, and as we're not pre-planning, working more in layers, they'll probably generally slip behind, but taking a moment between breaths to see if there are spaces open on the paper. That would be the starting point of a forward leaf or figure, taking presence in the front, having its full edges described before the others hide behind in the back. and establishing in the next few iterations of the leaf form those last remaining open territories, if you have them, as well as layer and densify behind. If you're already working towards the background of the pages, and keep adding new forms there. I have a lot of page to establish, and if my video so decides to come back, perhaps I'll get to draw. And we'll continue with the exercise as it's been established to move that pen, now letting that pen guide some of our engagement with the senses of the body. As you come to your next start of a curve or a form, taking a moment to really establish the breath, breathe in and feel it expanding the torso up, down, left, right, forward and back. And after you let that breath exhale, calming, we'll take another deep breath, again feeling its effects on the body. And then when ready, exhaling to begin the next journey of the pen or pencil. The breath starting to become a guide for how we move, and taking this cycle for a few moments together, maybe slowing down what's happening, breathing in, noticing sensation, breathing out, engaging with new movement, breathing in to steady, breathing out for action. In as we feel the holding of our ribs, our chest, out as we feel the release, deeper sinking into the body. A new shape forming with each cycle, a few quieter, softer breaths perhaps between, just keeping up that strong rhythm can bring a lot of oxygen. But when you feel ready, filling out, noticing the expansion, breathing out, letting the figures take shape, looking inwards to that cycle of the breath, letting it be a guide, not only for the motion of the hand present there, part of our action of observing, but for the resetting of the senses, a chance to reconsider the movement, the flow, your alignment to it, chance to recenter with that action. That present replenishing breath cycle, always with us, something we can engage with to guide us towards a way of noticing the senses, bringing some mindfulness forward. And as you enter your own rhythm there in the breath, that place for us to bring more attention now to the hand, to the feelings of the paper, the feelings of the way we're drawing, what may be there, our leaf forms. Starting to notice cycles you may have developed Do you start left or right? Do you draw the spine and then the veins out? Or work incrementally in the next few iterations of the cycle, taking that time to notice how you're engaging the paper. And I think really bringing some attention to the speed of motion. No need to adjust it, but to observe it, to find the curves move quickly, flowing, or are you at a density where care and consideration come in, managing the space between, noticing when one curve stops and begins to suggest its continuity. A time with the field present on the paper gives us opportunity to see the way how we are initiating action, initiating potential acts of creativity, emerging from a place of presence, place of calm and awareness of our own way of interacting with the pen and paper, of creating through this medium of drawing, a bringing of mindfulness to the act, and what that might mean for you. Is it the sensations of the fingertips becoming part of that motion of the hand, guiding it, giving feedback? Is it the eyes tracking little bumps, little movements, edges slightly thickened? Is it the engaging rise and fall of the torso, the chest, that moves the shoulder a little bit? It begins to shape nuances of action on the paper. A wobble here, an expression of our presence in the artifact. A little time brought to reflection. One thing we can notice in a few minutes, silence taking this space established of presence and awareness with our own drawing and our page, is the contrast of foreground and background, perhaps darkening some edges or bringing texture or pattern to things that lie behind, to push forward things that are in front, using the density as a map for the eye and the hand to begin to read together. Layers And try to draw in a little bit of emphasis, of foregrounding, of backgrounding to bring more depth to the drawing, or just continue adding leaves. We've brought a canvas here for movement, twists and turns, overlaps, and links between that we can read into and explore. Or they may begin to pull us back into noticing that day unfolding around us. From that little bit of time spent here, that we can use to come out of the space of the drawing, take a few re-establishing breaths with ourselves. Like we blink the eyes very deliberately, give them a tight shut and a quick open, tight shut, slow open, tight shut. Let them open as they come back into presence and get their focusing near and far re-engaged. A little wiggle to the fingers and the hands as you bring yourself to a place to close the exercise, or if you have the time, continue drawing onwards.